Developing Tomorrow's Leaders is a podcast that is all about educating, supporting, and inspiring the next generation of leaders.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Developing Tomorrow's Leaders. I am your host, Antoine Thompson, or Coach T. And today I have a very special guest, and really a guest that I get excited about because it truly aligns with the whole purpose of the title of this podcast, which is Developing Tomorrow's Leaders. And this gentleman does exactly that on a day-to-day basis. And when you hear all the great things he's doing, you're going to really be inspired just as much as I am. Well, first and foremost, he's a husband and a father of 3 boys. He's also a high school English and special education teacher. He's the founder and CEO of Long Island Prevention and Resilience Enrichment Program, or PrEP, and the creator and host of Mission Z, Empowering Change podcast, which yours truly had the pleasure of being a guest on. And I hope you all will help me welcome Paul Vecchione to Developing Tomorrow's Leaders. Good afternoon, Paul.
Hello, my friend Antoine. How are you today?
I could not be better. Me better because I'm talking to you. We had a great conversation on your podcast and before that, and I'm really looking forward to having another great conversation with you.
As am I, sir. Fire away.
All right. Well, first and foremost, I think a lot of people like to know the question with all of the turmoil that's going on in education. When I talk to you, you still absolutely love being in the classroom and teaching. And I'd love for you to share with us why you're so passionate about that.
Yeah, of course. Well, I've been a teacher for going on 19 years now, Antoine. And, every day I walk into this building, and I'm here today because I was here after school helping a kid, get through some of the struggles that he was having. And, it's just it's one of those professions where you get to leave an impact. You might not know it, that day or that week or that year, but at some point, it comes back to you. The kids come back and they tell you, I remember that day when so-and-so, when you said this to me, or you kind of helped me with that. And, maybe to me, it really wasn't a big deal because I do it every day. But, when you hear of the impact that, as a teacher you can have on young kids, it's like, it's almost like your kryptonite. It just keeps you going. And it's something that you really look forward to doing because every day is a new day. Every day is a new challenge. And, someone who's been doing it for 19 years, like you almost look for that and kind of, look for things to conquer every day. And that's what you get to do. And it really is the greatest profession in the world, I have to say.
Yeah, I like the part where you said, you like the challenges because you know that every challenge that comes each day is an opportunity for you to be a better teacher. And I think that the kids really appreciate that and can appreciate what you put into what you do. And I applaud you for it. It is an amazing profession. I do it on a level, but it's the same concept of teaching, helping kids get better. And I truly, like you, it truly is a passion. It's something that wakes me up every day. You absolutely love doing it.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think one of the biggest things I know I want to talk about are a lot of the challenges that young people deal with today, and you're on the front lines of it, and we hear a lot of it on the news. We read about it, but I don't get caught into that reading stuff. I love to get the juice and the meat of it from the kids themselves and from people like yourself who are right in the trenches. If you could name, we know actually, let's just go ahead and talk about mental health.
Yeah.
The mental health impact that kids or issues that kids are going through, and we're talking pre, during, and post COVID. If you see a significant swing since COVID, and if so, what kinds?
Yeah. So, I mean, look, obviously COVID has had a major impact, right, on mental health, not just for kids. I think for everybody, I think for the whole world. And, being in the human profession of teaching, because that's what it is, right? You're around human beings every day. You hear how they talk, you hear what their, experiences have been and, what their challenges have been. And yeah, I think one of the glaring things that has, stood out is the mental health aspect. I mean, before COVID, it was there. Kids today are really exposed to a very different set of circumstances than, let's say, you and I were when we were kids. You can kind of go through it. You can go through, the social media aspect. You can go through the breakdown maybe of family and emotional relationships and things like that. don't like to talk about it too much with, people who understand who don't understand it, as much as, let's say, someone like you and I who work with kids every day. But it's there, man. I mean, it's palpable. You can hear it, you can see it. And just being able to be a part of their world to help them through it, for me, like I said before, is something that kind of keeps me going every day. And mental health, there's a crisis going on across the country, and it's unfortunate that we're at the place where we've been. I mean, I know just yesterday there was another school shooting in the country with somebody who was obviously not well mentally. So it's definitely something that's here. It's something that has to be addressed, and I think that's why we do what we do.
Yeah, no, 100%. Well, you're aware of the podcast that Keith and I have, the Teen Speak podcast, and I bring that up because mental health comes up in every one of those episodes. And the openness and candid approach that the kids share speaks volumes to how strong and resilient they are, and where we, and I say we in general terms, as adults, don't acknowledge that these kids are, in some instances, well prepared for some of the challenges that they're faced with. And a lot of us assume that they're not. And I think that this platform has been great to, I know, educate some adults that may be listening to it, because some of them have been really impressed by it. And Keith and I sit there and you probably be like, well, we knew all along these kids have the capabilities of doing it if they're ever given the opportunity. And I think that is a great way of combating some of the mental health issues, is allowing these kids the opportunity to voice their concerns and whatever challenges that they may be facing.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I do applaud you and Keith for doing that amazing platform, for a podcast, kind of give kids that opportunity to speak out and to have their voices heard. And I could not agree more with you. I think that they're not given enough credit for what they are aware of, and their willingness to express it, their willingness to talk about it. I know you and I talked about this on the Mission Z podcast, but back in the day, mental health wasn't, let's just say, it wasn't mainstream. It wasn't spoken about with any level of consistency. And I think that's changed. I think that kids today are a lot more aware of what challenges they face in terms of their mental health, and the ability to speak to great people like you and great people like Keith on that platform, to me, is just phenomenal. I think we need more of that, really. And that's really what we're all aiming to do here. Is that's who we're focused on here, is the kids, because the kids of today are, it sounds so cliche, but they're the future. And it's really kind of up to us to give them that opportunity to shine.
No, 100%. You're 100% right. And it's for me, it's so refreshing not only to have the conversation with them, but as a coach, I learn from each one of those kids every time we have one on there, and they're sharing not just where they are from a mental standpoint, socially, every aspect of their lives, but how confidently they convey their message. And also, you can also hear some of the frustration and some of their concerns, and that kind of leads to the next thing that I know we wanted to talk about, and that's kind of some of the current policies that are associated with education and kids, and what are some of the things that handcuffs you as an educator that you want to do for kids, but in some instances you aren't able to do. And I'd love for you to share a little bit of that you can, of course.
Sure. Yeah. So, I mean, look, we're not sure how it is in your neck of the woods. I'm sure it's not that dissimilar from where I am, but I feel like the education system today in the United States, it's very archaic. The framework for it was kind of built in the 1840s, right, during the height of the Industrial Revolution. That idea that you kind of put a widget in, and you work it, and then you get a finished product out. And I think we're kind of set up to have this kind of factory mentality when it comes to education. And the biggest problem with that is kids aren't widgets, and teachers and educators aren't widgets. Where we're all here in this profession for the purpose of helping kids, but we're human beings just like they are. And the problems that the modern day education faces today, in my opinion, is we're not adapting, and we're not evolving to the way society has, since the 1840s, or since, the early onset of public education, forums. I mean, we have so much that, so much more we can be doing with kids, and we are constrained obviously by time limits and, by budgets, but, everybody is. And I think every other industry, is able to kind of adapt and evolve. And for some reason, we're not doing it on a public education scale. I can't say that there aren't great leaders here that want to do that. I'm surrounded by amazing colleagues, amazing, leaders in education who want to do the right things, by kids. It's just, I feel like we're up against a system that is just very unwilling or unable to, change in the capacity that it's, kind of needed. And, that's why I'm speaking out. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing. I mean, the biggest thing that we can do is being in the trenches, like you said, and being on the front lines and being advocates for kids, and how we can change that system that's just been in place for so long. I mean, tomorrow's world doesn't look anything like, yesterday's, and we really just need to kind of embrace that. And, as a society in general, work together to help kind of shape that, what that future is. And right now it's, there is progress, but it's slow, Antoine, to be honest with you. It is absolutely slow, too slow.
Yeah, no, you're right. Well, the one word you mentioned throughout that, Paul, and it's a word that I always bring up when I have conversations with people and guests as well about education, is the word evolution. And I always like to ask the question: has the automobile evolved over time?
Of course.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Has technology evolved over time?
Right.
Absolutely. I mean, the fact that we're sitting here looking at each other and talking to each other is a prime example. But yet, one of the most important aspects of life for young people, and for all of us, because we've all had to go through, has never evolved.
Right.
And it makes you start asking yourself the question: is it ever going to? Because if everything else around us has evolved, but education has not, for the powers that be, this is doing exactly what they want it to do, which is, like you had mentioned before, it's just basically putting kids to school so they can go out in the workforce and keep this country going. Well, we have a generation of kids to have minds of their own, they have visions, they have passions that they want to follow, and the internet is opening those doors for them. While we see all of these battles for control over the internet and what people have access to, because these kids are going, hey, that's great, but that's not what I want to do. I'm a visionary. This is what I want to do. And going to school, it makes your job a little difficult for some, in some instances, because these kids think differently, but yet you have to provide a curriculum that your school system says, hey, this is what we have to teach. And kids aren't always engaged because they're like, okay, well, I'm either going to learn it or not use it.
Right. Yeah, no doubt about it. And, like we said, the word evolve, and, you kind of bring up the technology aspect now, full disclosure here. I can say from when I started about 19 years ago, again, we're integrating, technology, and, obviously the innovation of what, today's student, will become once they graduate and go into the workforce, but I just feel like there's too many forces working against, that in the current day education system. And until we all kind of, as a society, as a country, as, leaders take on that challenge, I'm fearful that it's not going to change to the pace that it has to change. Like you said, the automobile, I mean, you go through it, any kind of technology that's, changed over the past even 50 years. Why are we so, resistant, right, to that change? And, the real kind of answer there is I mean, there's a lot of things involved, whether we have budgets we have to, stick by. There's a lot of politics in public education. There's a lot of money that people are trying to get their hands on, in public education, and you're just kind of up against a lot of forces. So, we really do need that seismic shift, Antoine, to kind of bring this, education system into the next century, or even into this century, really.
This century. And I think the other big challenge that comes up is, as much as we want to move in that direction, we're almost losing teachers hand over fist because of the struggles. And I think when I read some of the stories, I'll give you an example there. I'm not on Twitter that much, but I get notifications, they pop up, and I just kind of see, oh, that might be something I want to look at. Well, there was a teacher that popped up, and he just said, today was my last day of teaching after 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had to go look at this thing. And basically, it just got to the point where he goes, it's almost like having two sets of handcuffs on me. And how can I passionately do my job when I really feel like I have to question everything I think, everything I do? And it's sad. And just reading the comments, you could just feel the passion that everybody and the empathy that everybody had for the guy. And
Yeah.
that's what I think is the other big challenge.
No doubt. And I'll take myself out of this, statement for a second, but here's how I feel about teachers. In broad strokes here, teachers are remarkable people. And here's why, Antoine. They are faced with an inordinate amount of challenges every day. I mean, you go through whether it's, the difficulty with curriculum, the difficulty with, new regulations, and the difficulty with having, different students, I mean, on and on and on and on. And I just witness it every single day, how much adversity teachers encounter, and they're evolving, right? They're overcoming it, and they do it with this poise and this professionalism. I mean, not everybody all the time, but we're all human, right? But
Right.
I mean, I witness some of what my colleagues go through every day, and I see them thinking on their feet and pivoting to what they need to do, and I am like marveled at the way some of the most of them, all of them handle it, every single day. And it's a very stressful job. And there's so much there that, has to be, dealt with. And we do it every single day, and we do it with a smile. We still have to stand up in front of that classroom every day and be the best teacher we can be for the students on top of everything else. So my blanket statement to that, and, the empathy for that guy, I couldn't agree more, because it really is a rewarding, phenomenal profession. Accept the challenges and the adversity. You have to be a certain kind of person and professional to deal with that onslaught and still come to work every day and perform at your best. So that's what's happening now.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But there's I actually want to talk about this. Is what's so great about this podcast. You talk about whatever you want. I want to talk about the elephant in the room, and because it does affect education, and that's parents. Because you have a job to do. You're provided an outline of what you're expected to teach and instruct kids on. And parents have a different perspective on what should be, which is another element that you have no control over, but yet you have to be that you have to deal with. Is that an ongoing issue in your opinion, or you think that that is something that's easier to control than the other end of the spectrum as far as policies and what happens with school boards and things of that nature?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really great question. It's a loaded question, but for me it's a really easy question, because here's why. Before you mentioned the word empathy, okay? So every parent wants to send their child to school, and they want their child to have the best possible education, the best possible experience, the best possible day. And when you send your kid to school, and I'm, like I said, I'm a father of two age, school age kids right now, and a third on, headed to school soon. But when I have to deal with a parent, and I have to kind of put that parent hat on as a teacher, and I'm speaking to them, you do have a lot of empathy for what they're experiencing, because they have to be in the know about what's going on. They have to be in the know about whether it's the education policies, or even with kids and socialization, social emotional bullying. They have to know everything in order to be able to come to a conversation that's informed, to be able to help their child with the help of their teacher. So for me, it's kind of easy, because if I'm able to empathize with a parent, and I am, because I am a parent, and kind of go through issues with them with that in mind, as well as the best possible way to deal with a student and their issues. It's not that hard for me. I mean, it can be challenging, but as long as you have, like, I was always taught to by my parents, to be able to put myself in someone else's shoes, and it's so much easier to deal with somebody who's stressed when you're able to do that. Because look, they just want what's best for their child. So I'm on the same spectrum with them as a teacher, but also as a parent. So I'm able to kind of take that approach with them, and it really is effective, because it's genuine. We both want the same thing. We want the best for their child in that situation. So it's it can be challenging. But for the most part, I've had nothing but really good positive experiences with parents and stuff. So
Yeah. Well, obviously, you just described the reason why, because you're a parent, you kind of can understand the situation. And the other reason I asked the question is because, I've been coached for 38 years, but I have no children of my own. So my perspective is totally different. And, not saying there's a right or wrong way, it's just of getting a better understanding of it. And, for me, I'm just under, I would be under the assumption, yes, of course, parents want what's best for their kids, like you said earlier, just like you want what's best for their kids as a teacher. It's about coming to common ground, but you all still always have those that think they know better, and those are the ones that I think are the challenges for you.
no doubt about it. And look, that's where your professionalism comes in. That's where I was schooled and trained to be your child's teacher, and this is what I was taught as the best way to do A, B, C, and D. And you have to kind of reach that mutual understanding, that mutual respect, because a lot of parents don't have that idea of what it takes to be a teacher and to experience the things every day. But like I said, for me, I've been teaching 19 years. I don't recall any kind of difficult conversation with a parent that wasn't able to be rectified or diffused quickly, just because I do consider myself a people person, but I am there to accommodate, but also do it in professional way and do it the way that's supposed to be, for the best way to have that child educated, and then so we kind of work through the issues that way. But yeah, I mean, I just feel like if I understand what a parent's going through, it's a lot easier for me to deal with them with any kind of issue or any kind of adversity. So
Mercy. Yeah, I don't know. I totally understand that. Like I said, as a coach, I've dealt with great parents, and I've dealt with parents that have kind of gone the other end of the spectrum. And to your point, as teachers and coaches, we evolve to understand on both sides of the situation, understanding their side, but trying to get them to understand our side. Sometimes it's easier said than done,
mhm.
because some are, they're going to hold their ground, and I respect it to a degree, because, like I said, it's not my kid. They want what's best for them, and
Right,
it is what it is.
right.
I wanted to shift back to social media for a minute, and if you could share a little bit about with the school system or school where you are. Uh, is there a lot of controls in place to limit social media uh, access for kids, and how does that work? Because I know everybody does it differently, but I was just interested to find out.
Yeah. So the problem with social media is it's still the Wild West, I think, in terms of regulation. And the government, I know they're trying, especially in the past couple of years with all the madness with between the pandemic and politics and things like that. But in terms of the access and what's on there, we're still way behind, in terms of keeping it safe for our kids. And look, there are obviously controls and there are obviously limitations, but kids are smart these days. They know their way around it. They can get basically anything to anywhere they want at any time. So the biggest thing you have to do is just kind of be vigilant. And I'm just kind of experiencing this with my own kids now. They're 7 and 8 years old, where they want the iPads, they want to be on this site with their friends, but they kind of meander off. They can click some things and get to some places that they really shouldn't be. But that's on me and my wife to make sure that we're making sure that we're setting limits, that we're being vigilant of what they're experiencing on social media. In terms of school, in terms of in school, there's just look, all we can really do is raise awareness for what the perils of social media really are. Our hands are kind of tied in that, every kid has a cell phone. It's real easy to download an app and start clicking around and get to a place where you shouldn't be. But the best thing we can do is educate the kids and the parents on what needs to be kind of looked upon and watched out for. And that's actually some of what we're doing with Long Island Prep, is kind of training parents and informing parents how to be more vigilant for social media, because it could be it could be a monster. It can cause a lot of problems. So I'd say for that, the biggest thing we can do is just be vigilant and just educate people and inform them on every every aspect we possibly can about what's out there and what's dangerous.
Yeah. So let me ask this question. Did you take mind reading in school?
Did I take what? I'm sorry.
Mind reading? Did you read
Mind
minds?
reading. No,
Yeah.
no, I
Hey, you
didn't.
must have been reading my mind because I was about to ask you about Long Island Prep. You start talking about, I'm like, this guy must be reading my mind over there. What is this all about?
Sorry
Are
about
you looking?
that.
I just okay. No, I'm messing. It's absolutely fine. But actually, just great segue. If you don't mind, to share a little bit more about Long Island Prep. I'd love for you to do that.
Sure. Yeah. So it is a drug abuse prevention and mental health awareness company. I formed it about 5 years ago. Buddy of mine was running for local office here on Long Island, and one of the initiatives and one of the issues that he was focused on as a candidate, and then as you know, his position was the opioid crisis. So you go back to around 2017, the opioid crisis was raging. It had peaked around that time. It came down a little bit, after that nationwide, and then boom, the pandemic kind of brought it right back on, onto the front pages. And throughout the last 5 years, I did a lot of research. I did a lot of development for the three pillars of action, we call it. So we're doing some drug abuse prevention education in schools with kids, kindergarten through 12th grade. And the second pillar is for parents and educators and professionals in our communities, like I was talking about with the social media. We're going to get out and we're going to educate parents and, other educators and, people in our communities about the dangers of drugs, about overdose, about social media, focus on mental health, things like that. It really is it's a comprehensive program that kind of hits it on a lot of angles here. And the third pillar is early identification and intervention services. Our recap program really is kind of it's new in that I kind of took my experience as a teacher, my observations over the last 19 years, and how can we kind of raise awareness and bring an extra layer of protection when we notice a red flag, when there's something off with a child, with a student. How can we kind of work together and put a kid on a plan, and work with the team, get some goals and get some benchmarks and communication. And I just kind of took the things that I've observed over the past 19 years as a teacher and the issues that kids face, put it all kind of together in this this three pillars of action kind of approach. And look, I mean, we really need it these days. There's so much going on between the substance abuse, overdoses with fentanyl, and obviously the mental health crisis going on. So we've kind of integrated all three programs to kind of focus on that and hit it from every angle possible. So the students are being educated, the parents are being educated to kind of close that information gap between what kids are doing in school and what they're doing at home. Another observation of mine, I noticed that parents and teachers are kind of informing each other of what's happening at home and in school. Well, let's get everybody talking about it. Let's get everybody on the same page so we know what to look out for, right? And then when there's something going on, now people are aware, and the chances of intervention and helping that child through it before a nefarious situation occurs, is really what we're aiming to do there, Antoine. So there's a whole lot to it. I appreciate you bringing it up, but it's something I'm real proud of. It's something that took me a long time to develop, and I just brought a lot of experience, a lot of research, a lot of development into it. So we're on our way there.
No, I love that. It's a lot of work, and as you were describing it, I'm just thinking about a couple uh, aspects of it, which I think are really great, and that's closing the gap between parents and teachers, but also parents and students. And I think I'll use the social media thing again, because I know I'm just assuming, you tell me if I'm wrong. I would think one of those parts of the pillars are, you're dealing with the social media part is, parents want to, keep an eye and control some of what their kids do, but it's also lead by example, meaning, parents can't live on their devices, but they expect their kids not to. Kids are going to do what their parents do. And that has to be a challenge in itself.
Yes, and that's a really great point, and it kind of goes back to all of this, right? I mean, there's no class on how to be a parent. I hear it all the time, and it's like, well, why don't you teach people how to be parents? Well, you really can't do that, But you know what you can do? You can go out into these communities, and you can go out into these, these meetings and these presentations, and you just kind of give people information. Knowledge is power. It really is. And from I probably hear a lot more at school from kids, just from talking to them and hearing them talk to their friends, than parents here at home. So why don't we close that information gap and get everybody talking about the same thing, so there's no surprises, so there's no information that gets missed, because when information gets missed, fall through the cracks, and things happen. So we're trying to prevent that. And the thing is, the biggest thing with social media is, yeah, I mean, look, everybody and their mother has a cell phone today, and everyone's clicking around and seeing around. But when parents are aware, and when teachers are aware of the new trends and the new lingo and the new problems, all of a sudden we're all kind of talking about it. So when I hear something in the classroom, or a parent hears something at home, and we're kind of going back and forth about it, and everyone knows, well, all of a sudden we're, our antennas are up. And when we hear something that could be, possibly, destructive or dangerous, all of a sudden it's not so difficult to pick up the phone and say, hey, I heard somebody so and so talking about today, and we need to talk about it and raise awareness about it and kind of get them on the right track. So that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, no, I absolutely love that, man. I applaud you for your commitment to it, and utilizing your years of experience and bringing it to the forefront and putting this together. And it sounds like it's a phenomenal program, and obviously you have a lot of support behind it. And I think that's what's going to make it be successful as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So the other thing I want to ask you about is, you tell us a little bit more about your podcast. What really got you started that? Because I mean, again, it's kind of aligns with the other podcast that we have. So love to have you share that.
Sure. So yeah, Mission Z, Empowering Change is the title. Now, I kind of thought about, while I was, kind of developing everything for Long Island Prep, a lot of the things that I put into those programs. And then I was like, you know what? Like, let's get people not only learning about all these things, but talking about all of these things. And let's do it on a forum where we can bring people in who are interested in making a difference, because we can talk about it amongst ourselves all we want, until we get, real like-minded people who want to do, who want to make real change, who want to empower kids to, be active, participants in their lives, and the adults in their lives, on how to make that possible. Let's do it on a forum where people are hearing it, right? So I know I had you on, Antoine. You told us all about all the things you're doing, because you're doing great things down there with everything you're doing, and you're definitely empowering change. So, like, guests like Antoine Thompson, who comes on and gives us, some insight about what he's doing. I strive for those types of guests all the time, because that's what we need to do. We need to be talking about it so that we can be changing it.
Right.
And that's the premise behind it. So we've got these programs. Now let's complement the programs by getting the real players in the room to talk about it, so that we're not just spinning our wheels, so that we're actually making the changes we need, empowering kids to make that change, and then changing society one by one. Move that needle little by little, because that's all it takes to start something big.
Yeah, no. The reason I wanted you to share it, Paul, is because basically you've got your podcast as a combination of this one and TeamSpeak, because you're bringing everybody together on one platform, which I think is great. And that's how you make change. I'm not saying that you and I can have this conversation, but our visions align. So you could come on TeamSpeak and be a third guest or host on there, and it wouldn't skip a beat.
Right. Right.
So I think that's why I love your podcast, and it was great to be on that. And for you listeners out there, when Paul and I actually had our first meeting, we met each other, we both agreed right then that we're going to have each other on our podcast. And so
Yep.
I'm reciprocating today, and I'm really glad I did. And this has been phenomenal. And I knew you were going to bring some gems, and the work that you're doing. As much as you applaud me for mine, I applaud you for yours, not just for the 19, just your 19th year of teaching.
Yeah.
You have a 7 or 8-year-old, and your youngest is not even in school yet.
Right.
You have a passion for teaching. You're making a difference in people's lives. You're putting yourself out there, helping to straighten people's lives out that may be in disarray in different aspects, be it substance abuse and mental health and things of that nature. So you're to be applauded just as well, if not bigger than I, because you're really in the midst of some of the bigger issues that people are dealing with on a day-to-day basis. So I personally applaud you for the work that you're doing.
Thank you, Antoine. That really means a lot to me, especially coming from you. All the great things you're doing. I mean, look, great minds think alike, my friend. I think that's that's a cliche again, but it's true.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's very true, very true. So I have a question I ask all my guests. Before I get to that, I did want to ask you: is there anything new that you're working on that you want to share with us? Because I definitely want to give you the opportunity to share that.
Well, thank you. Yeah, so we actually are. We're developing an online academy for so CTLE. It's the New York State. I think it's nationwide, but we're actually working on it here in New York State, where I am currently living and working. But we're developing an online academy where we're going to bring people on, so like educators and people can become professionally developed in all of these things. It's going to be called Prep Academy. We want to get people on there who are looking to, kind of work on their teaching certificates or salary advancement or professional development responsibilities. And this idea again of pushing this narrative of all the things we're doing and really getting people, the professionals who are working with our kids every day, on the same page with all these things. So I do appreciate you giving me the opportunity to plug that a bit, but it does all kind of go along with all the other things we're doing, and that's just teaching people, bringing people aware of everything going on, and really working through these issues the best way we can. And I think if we just kind of keep on that track, I think I think we're going to actually make change here, which is exactly what we're trying to do.
Oh no, you're definitely doing that. I think that's a great. I love that concept because it also sounds like this could be for, let's just say, some educators decide they want to kind of come out of it, but they want to kind of stay in the same arena, right? This is an opportunity for them to fine tune their skills and get
Yep.
back out there and
Yeah. So yeah, and it's going to be focused on what the programs like Long Island Prep bring to the table here. So we're working on social emotional learning. We're working on things like mental health, substance abuse prevention and awareness. And I mean, just basically what the podcast is, what the three pillars of actions are, and then kind of complement all of it to bring everybody who's in this kind of ecosystem together to learn something and to know something. So now that we're all, again, just to raise awareness and get educated on it. Knowledge is power. Knowledge is what is going to help us, empower change, and that's what we're aiming to do, my friend. Absolutely.
no, you're doing it, man. You're doing it. Keep doing it. Keep doing it. And the other thing I'd like to mention at the beginning is that Paul and I are also both members of Helpipedia, co-op that works with students, parents, and with school systems to kind of help bring whatever support that they need. So definitely encourage you to go to helpipedia.org to find out more about that, and we can find out more about Paul there as well as myself. So my question, Paul, before we depart, and there's no right or wrong answer, but I ask every guest if you would share with us the individual or individuals that have been most influential in your life and why.
Yeah, so for me, that's really kind of easy. I know for some people it's not, and I've been blessed in my life. I've been incredibly lucky. Look, I've had a lot of good mentors, a lot of good teachers, a lot of good professors, a lot of good friends. But the two people who I have to give that honor to would be my mom and dad. I grew up in a household with three other siblings, and it was family, family, family. First, and first. It just was a good, healthy, and loving, household for all of. I mean, I think I moved out for good when I was about 25 or so. But my mom and dad really did kind of. They kept us all together. They kept us all in values. They kept us all in morals, and they were incredibly supportive. It's funny because I always tell people, in a way, growing up with so little adversity, when I had to, experience some adversity after that, it was kind of difficult for me because, like a lot of people learn how to deal with hard times when they're real young. I was fortunate enough not to, and not in any way. I have no bad memory. I don't have any bad memories of growing up whatsoever, in my house with my mom and dad and my family. So when, things kind of, when I went off course a couple of times in my life, I had to kind of learn on my feet there because, we were so blessed with having such a great household and a great family to live with that, but look, you learn and you get through it. And my parents taught me so much about that. So definitely that honor's got to go to them, because first and foremost, those are the ones, those are the people who gave me, the great blessings in life. So has to be them.
Yeah, you laugh when you said how long you're home. Guess what? I was at home about the same amount of time. I think I was in my early to mid-20s before I
Right.
left, and for the same reason. I remember my dad said, "You stay here as long as you want. This is your house." And
Right.
I'm like, "Wow."
Right.
But at some point, you need that independence, and you make that decision.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and then there are things that you don't plan for, but then when they happen, you're like, "Hey, you know what? I was taught, hey, you got to work yourself through certain things." And
Right. Well, and that's it. So maybe I didn't have the adversity lessons from growing up, but when I went through it, who was there to support me and who was there to help me through it with just incredible wisdom and incredible judgment, and taught me so much. So yeah, man. I mean, totally have to give that honor to my mom and dad. And thank God they're still with me. They are still my two best friends in this world, without a doubt.
yeah. The other thing I'll add to that is I absolutely love when you said it was all about family, 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 and family. Uh, no knock on anybody, but it's just a concept that's gone by the wayside over the years, and it's evident in some of the relationships that kids have with their parents, which is another reason the work that we do is so important. I put so much emphasis on relationships because they're everlasting, and there's that saying, people are in your life for a season or for a reason.
Right.
And I think it's really important to understand the difference in those.
Could not agree more, my friend. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, Paul, this has been great, my friend. And any parting words? Oh, I know what I want you to share with everybody, how they can get in touch with you if they want to and follow you.
Sure. So you can go to my website. Really, there is where we have all the information about the programs, about the three pillars of action. That's www.longislandprep.org. My social media tags are on there, but if you just Google Long Island Prep, they should all kind of come up. So I'd be happy to talk to anybody about what we're doing. We're doing some really great things, and I'm looking forward to continuing this relationship with you, Antoine, and with Helpipedia. I mean, what a phenomenal. Have to shout them out, because I
Yeah,
feel so lucky. I know you do too. We're incredibly lucky and blessed to be part of that organization. So
absolutely. And Laurel and Phil have done a great job putting that together. And it's an amazing group of people. And yeah, I guess I do want to do another plug in there. We all, there's a lot of people don't understand the true meaning of the word networking. This group knows what networking is about,
yeah,
and
yeah.
they make the most of it. Nobody's there for themselves. Everybody's there for everybody. And that is what makes it so special. And I'm really honored to be a part of it with you and Keith and Ann and all other Ann and Ann that I know that are in there.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's just keep it going. Let's just keep it going.
Absolutely. Well, Paul, I really thank you again, my friend. And obviously, I'll be seeing you in a couple of days.
You got
Probably,
it.
right?
You got it, brother. Absolutely. Thank you, Antoine. It was a great experience. Good luck with everything. Thank you.
Hey, oh, my pleasure. Thank you. And as always, I'm Coach T. I'm here to educate, support, and inspire the next generation of leaders. Until the next episode, take care. Be sure to check out the new section on my website on CoachT'sCorner.com of a new series called the Building Strong Foundations for Teen Success. It's a transformational series designed to empower young people with the knowledge, skills, and mindset needed to succeed in life. Each volume covers essential topics, including mental health, leadership, accountability, responsibility, time management, and more, and offering powerful affirmations, practical tips, and inspiring stories to motivate and inspire teens in their journey towards success. So whether you're a student, teacher, parent, or anyone who cares about the next generation, this series is a must-have resource to help teens thrive and achieve their full potential. Let's start building strong foundations for teen success today.